Hey, I'm Emma Garlett, and on today's episode of Paint It Blak, I'll be talking about overrepresentation of Aboriginal people in prison, particularly at Banksia Hill Detention Centre, and I'll look at a few reasons why so many of the children in Banksia Hill are Aboriginal, and what we can do about it to stop the cycle. I'll touch on the social issues faced by communities, racism, and the lack of trust many Aboriginal families have with health and education services across Western Australia due to the historical trauma. Before I begin, make sure you watch my previous episode to give you an understanding about the current state of Banksia Hill before we go any further. And I'll be talking about some themes of racism and violence that may be triggering or upsetting to some viewers. So please take care while watching. Join me as I paint it black. Banksia Hill is the only child prison in Western Australia. Around 74% of children in Banksia Hill are Aboriginal. 74%. That is essentially 3 out of 4 kids. It's a lot. And considering Aboriginal people only make up just 3% of the population, it's shocking. These numbers are distressing. But what we need to realise, we're not just talking about numbers. These are lives. Children's lives which are pulled from underneath them. Banksia Hill is a last resort, and it is for children who have committed serious crimes. There is a huge, disgusting and alarming representation of Aboriginal youth in child detention. Now, the purpose of this episode was to talk to you about some of the reasons why Banksia Hill has mostly Aboriginal children. Unfortunately, a big part of the reason is due to generational trauma. Many of the kids are victims of it. Generational trauma may include things like domestic violence, alcohol and drug addiction, child abuse and neglect, which is inflicted on and by people who have been victims of it too. But in the case of Aboriginal people, a large part of the generational trauma is being systematically exploited. Facing continual and repeated abuse, racism and extreme poverty, the generational trauma can be attributed to contributing factors which has displaced Aboriginal people, causing stress and loss. Things like the stolen generation, past racist government policy, and stolen land and livelihoods have all added to the passing down and effects of generational trauma on today's children. Symptoms of intergenerational trauma include anger, anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, and destructive behaviours. Another part is unfortunately due to fetal alcohol spectrum disorders, post-traumatic stress disorders, autism, and other severe health and learning impediments. It's not a child's fault if they are born with brain damage. The combination of intergenerational trauma and FASD seems to be a recipe for crime. These kids need support programs. They need care and they need education to enable them to become functioning members of society. The current punitive control measures are ineffective and need to be put to a prompt halt. Aboriginal children are victims of generational trauma. When you think about the stolen generation, you may think it was a long time ago. But it was the grandparents of today's children who were taken away from their family by government authorities. Those effects have been felt, and now we are trying to amend the damage of the past. We need to stop demonising children. It's hard to fix such large issues, but locking up kids is a wrong approach. There needs to be preventative measures taken for high-risk children before any crime is committed, and education is key. Thanks for watching Paint It Black with me, Emma Garlett. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode.